I'm Marjorie, 64, retired nurse from Boston. For 4 decades, my son Aaron and I were inseparable. I thought nothing could break our bond until last month, when my phone lit up with a text. "Don't come to the family reunion, we're cutting ties." My heart shattered as I read those words. After a long pause, I typed back just one word: understood. What happened next changed everything. 22 hours later, I made one phone call that revealed the truth behind those 99 missed calls. If you're watching this video, hit that subscribe button and let me know where you're watching from. Stick around to see how a mother's love can overcome even the deepest betrayal. My story begins long before that devastating text message. I spent 40 years as a dedicated nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital, helping others through their most vulnerable moments. Being a caregiver wasn't just my profession, it became part of my identity. When my husband Thomas passed away from a sudden heart attack 15 years ago, that nurturing instinct transferred entirely to our only child, Aaron. Aaron was 27 when he lost his father. Even as an adult, he leaned on me during that difficult time. We grieved together, finding comfort in our shared memories and the bond we'd always maintained. I had raised him largely on my own, even before Thomas died. My husband traveled frequently for work, leaving Aaron and me to develop our own special connection. I can still picture Aaron as a bright-eyed 7-year-old, his knees scraped from falling off his bike for the 5th time that day. "One more try, Mom," he'd insist, determination shining through his tears. I'd dust him off, adjust his helmet, and watch him wobble down our driveway again. That persistence followed him into adulthood, through college, and into his career as an architect. Those college years tested our relationship in new ways. As a single mother working full-time, I took extra shifts to help pay his tuition. Sometimes I'd work 20 hours straight, catch 4 hours of sleep, then start again. Aaron would call me between classes, concerned about my health, but I always assured him I was fine. "Your future is worth every minute," I'd tell him. And it was. The day he graduated, standing tall in his cap and gown, was one of the proudest moments of my life. When Aaron met Stephanie during his final year of architecture school, I was thrilled. She seemed perfect for him, intelligent, ambitious, and from a good family. With her long auburn hair and confident smile, she charmed everyone she met, including me. At their wedding 7 years later, I happily welcomed her to our small family, grateful that Aaron had found someone to share his life with. The birth of my grandchildren brought us even closer. I was in the delivery room when Jack was born 12 years ago, holding Stephanie's hand alongside Aaron as she brought our family's newest member into the world. 2 years later, Emma joined us, a beautiful baby girl with her father's eyes. Those early years were filled with Sunday dinners at my house, holiday celebrations, and countless babysitting nights that I treasured. Our weekly Sunday dinner tradition became sacred. Aaron would bring the family every week without fail. I'd spend the day cooking their favorite meals: my famous pot roast for Aaron, mac and cheese for the kids, and vegetable lasagna for Stephanie, who preferred lighter meals. We'd talk about their week, the children's school activities, Aaron's latest architectural projects, and Stephanie's work as a marketing executive. Looking back, I can see now that things began to change about 7 years ago, though the shift was so gradual, I barely noticed at first. Stephanie started making comments about my cooking: too much salt, too many carbs. She'd bring her own food sometimes, claiming dietary restrictions that seemed to change weekly. I adapted, learning new recipes and techniques, wanting desperately to please her. Then the Sunday dinners became bi-weekly, then monthly. "We're just so busy," Aaron would explain apologetically. I understood. Raising children while managing 2 careers isn't easy. I offered to come to their house instead to help with the kids more, but my suggestions were usually deflected. Our phone conversations shortened too. Aaron and I used to talk almost daily, even if just for 5 minutes. He'd call during his lunch break or on his drive home. Gradually, those calls dwindled to weekly, then sporadically. When we did talk, Aaron seemed distracted, ending conversations abruptly with vague excuses about meetings or deadlines. 3 months ago, I tried addressing these changes directly. We were alone in the kitchen after one of our now rare family dinners. The children were watching television, and Stephanie was taking a business call in the backyard. "Is everything all right, Aaron?" I asked, handing him a dish to dry. We don't seem to see each other as much these days. He kept his eyes on the plate, wiping it more thoroughly than necessary. Everything's fine, Mom. Work is just crazy right now. The Portland project is taking all my time. I understand being busy, but it feels like more than that. If I've done something to upset you or Stephanie, I wish you'd tell me. His shoulders tensed visibly. Not everything is about you, Mom. Sometimes people just need space. The harshness in his tone stunned me into silence. Before I could respond, Stephanie returned, and the moment passed. Aaron softened immediately, smiling at his wife, as if our conversation had never happened. Our last normal interaction was 3 weeks before the text at a dinner I'd been invited to, almost as an afterthought. Jack had called me, not his parents, asking if Grandma could come to his school presentation dinner. Of course, I agreed immediately. Throughout the evening, I noticed Aaron checking his phone constantly, barely engaging in conversation. Stephanie sat between Aaron and me, effectively controlling any direct communication. As we were leaving, I mentioned the upcoming family reunion I was organizing at my brother Robert's lake house. It'll be wonderful to have everyone together again. Robert's flying in from Arizona. He hasn't seen the kids in 3 years. We'll have to see if we can make it, Stephanie replied quickly. Our schedule is pretty full this summer. Aaron remained silent, not meeting my eyes. That silence should have warned me about what was coming, but I still had no idea how completely our relationship was about to shatter. The morning of the text message began like any other Tuesday. I woke early, made my usual cup of Earl Grey tea, and sat at my kitchen table planning details for the family reunion. I was especially excited because my brother Robert, whom I hadn't seen in person for years, had confirmed he was coming. This reunion would finally bring our extended family together after the isolation of recent years. I had spent weeks organizing everything, renting the lake house, planning meals, accommodating everyone's dietary preferences, arranging activities for the children. I'd even hired a professional photographer to capture what I hoped would be precious memories. The reunion was just 2 weeks away, and I was finalizing the sleeping arrangements when my phone chimed with a message. Seeing Aaron's name on my screen made me smile. Perhaps he was asking about the reunion details or offering to help with preparations. My smile faded as I read the words that would replay in my mind for days to come. Mom, we need to be honest with you. Don't come to the family reunion. We're cutting ties. This isn't working anymore. Please respect our decision. The teacup slipped from my fingers, hot tea spilling across my carefully written plans. I read the message again and again, unable to comprehend the cold finality of those words. My hands trembled as I set down my phone. The kitchen suddenly felt too large, too quiet, the morning sunlight mockingly cheerful against the darkness spreading inside me. My first instinct was to call him immediately, to demand an explanation, to beg for understanding. I picked up my phone, my finger hovering over his contact. But something stopped me. A lifetime of giving Aaron space when he needed it, of respecting his boundaries, even when it hurt me. Instead, I typed the only response I could manage through my shock: understood. That single word took all my strength. I pressed send, then set my phone down and stared at the wall, my mind racing with questions. What had happened? Was it something I'd said? Something I'd done? Had Stephanie finally convinced him I was the meddling mother-in-law she'd always subtly accused me of being? The hours after sending that text were excruciating. Every minute felt like an eternity, as I waited for some clarification, some softening of the blow. I cleaned my already spotless house, scrubbing surfaces that didn't need scrubbing, organizing drawers that were already organized. Physical activity was the only thing keeping me from falling apart completely. By afternoon, the silence became unbearable. I called Aaron's cell phone, heart pounding. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again 30 minutes later. Voicemail again. By evening, I had called 12 times, each attempt increasing my desperation. I left messages that evolved from confused to pleading. Aaron, it's Mom. I got your text. I don't understand. Can we talk about this? Aaron, please call me back. Whatever I did, we can work through it. Son, I'm worried. This isn't like you. Just 5 minutes on the phone, that's all I'm asking. No response came. I checked my phone constantly, making sure the volume was turned up, that I hadn't somehow missed his call. Sleep was impossible that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction we'd had in recent months, searching for clues I might have missed. Had I criticized Stephanie's parenting? Had I overstepped by suggesting Jack might benefit from reading tutoring when I noticed him struggling? Had my offer to help with their mortgage payment during Aaron's company downsizing been too intrusive? Nothing seemed significant enough to warrant such a severe reaction. Around 3 in the morning, unable to sleep, I turned to social media, something I rarely did. Aaron's Facebook page showed photos posted just 4 days earlier. Their family at the beach, everyone smiling. Jack was proudly displaying a sandcastle. Emma was laughing as waves chased her up the shore. Aaron had his arm around Stephanie, looking content. The caption read, "Perfect day with the perfect family." Those images only deepened my confusion. There was no hint of the discord that would lead to cutting ties with his mother just days later. I scrolled through comments, finding normal interactions with friends and colleagues. Nothing suggested a family in crisis or a son preparing to sever ties with his parent. I checked my own recent texts and emails to Aaron, looking for anything that could have offended him. Our exchanges had been brief but normal. Questions about the children's activities, sharing an article about architecture. I thought he'd enjoy confirming the reunion details. Nothing that could explain this sudden rupture. As dawn broke, I was still awake, exhausted and heartbroken. I made another cup of tea with shaking hands and tried to think rationally. Perhaps Aaron was under extreme stress. Perhaps this was Stephanie's decision that he felt pressured to support. Perhaps they just needed time. I decided to give him 24 hours of the space he seemed to need. One day for him to reconsider, to explain, to give me some understanding of what had gone so terribly wrong. I couldn't have imagined then how that 24-hour period would completely transform our family. The morning after receiving the text, I found myself driving past Aaron's house. I hadn't planned to, but somehow my usual route to the grocery store detoured through his neighborhood. Their cars were both in the driveway, Aaron's silver SUV and Stephanie's white sedan. They were home, just going about their normal Tuesday, while my world was collapsing. I parked across the street, gathering courage before approaching the door. The walk to their porch felt miles long. I knocked, waited, knocked again. Through the decorative glass panels I could see movement inside, shadows passing, voices murmuring. They were deliberately not answering. I stood there for 10 minutes, occasionally calling out softly, "Aaron, it's Mom. Can we please talk?" Only silence responded. As I turned to leave, the curtain in Jack's upstairs bedroom moved slightly. My grandson's face appeared briefly, his expression confused and sad. He raised his hand in a small wave before disappearing from view. Someone had pulled him away from the window. That glimpse of Jack broke something inside me. He was being taught that shutting people out was an acceptable way to handle family conflict. Whatever issues Aaron and Stephanie had with me, involving the children in this emotional severance seemed cruel. My next painful realization came at Dora's cafe, where I'd stopped for lunch, unable to face my empty kitchen at home. Margaret Johnson, a mutual friend who had known Aaron since his school days, was also there. Normally warm and chatty, Margaret gave me a stiff nod before quickly finding a table far from mine. Throughout my meal, I noticed her glancing my way, then hurriedly looking down when our eyes met. As I was leaving, I approached her table. "Margaret, is everything all right? You seem uncomfortable." She fidgeted with her napkin. "I'm fine, Marjorie. Just busy. Work stuff." "Have you heard from Aaron recently?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Her expression shifted to something like pity mixed with discomfort. "I think this is between you and your family. I don't want to get involved." "Involved in what, Margaret? I don't understand what's happening. Aaron texted me yesterday saying they're cutting ties. Did he say anything to you?" "Stephanie mentioned you've been having some difficulties. That's all I know." She gathered her things. "I should get back to work. Take care, Marjorie." She hurried away, leaving me standing there, a new realization dawning. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. People knew about this cutting ties situation before I did. There had been conversations, explanations given, a narrative established, and I was the only one who hadn't been informed. 2 days later at Wilson's grocery, I overheard two women talking in the produce section. I recognized one as Melissa Cooper, mother to one of Emma's classmates. "It's sad, really," Melissa was saying quietly. "Aaron is such a nice guy, but his mother is apparently quite difficult. Stephanie says she's constantly undermining their parenting, showing up unannounced, criticizing everything." Her friend nodded sympathetically. "Mother-in-laws can be so challenging. No wonder they needed to create some boundaries." I abandoned my half-filled cart and fled the store, tears threatening to spill. The story being circulated bore no resemblance to reality. I had always called before visiting. I had supported their parenting decisions, even when I disagreed. The criticism Stephanie claimed I'd voiced had never passed my lips. That evening, I received an email from the neighborhood book club I'd been part of for 8 years. Diane, the organizer, wrote, "Considering the current circumstances, perhaps it would be best if you took a break from our meetings for a while. We value your contributions, but we want to be sensitive to all our members' comfort." 3 of the book club members were friends with Stephanie. They had clearly taken her side in a conflict I still didn't understand. The isolation was becoming systematic, extending beyond my immediate family to my community connections. The most revealing encounter came from my next-door neighbor Sam, a retired teacher who had always been straightforward to the point of bluntness. He found me weeding my garden the following day, more to keep busy than out of any real concern for the flowers. "You don't look good, Marjorie," he said, leaning over the fence. "Not sleeping." "It's been a difficult week," I admitted. He nodded, considering his words carefully. "I ran into Stephanie at the pharmacy yesterday. She had quite a lot to say about you." My hands stilled in the dirt. "Oh." "Said you've been calling nonstop, borderline harassing them. Said you've never approved of her, that you try to turn the kids against her." He raised an eyebrow. "Doesn't sound like the Marjorie I've known for 15 years. "None of that is true," I whispered, shocked at the extent of the fabrications. "Didn't think so." Sam shrugged. "She's been saying things like this around town for months now. Subtle at first, but getting more direct. Just thought you should know." Months. Stephanie had been systematically undermining me for months, while I remained oblivious, still bringing her favorite cookies when I visited, still offering to babysit whenever they needed help. Inside my house, I found myself pulling out photo albums, seeking evidence of the relationship I remembered versus the one being portrayed to the world. There we were at Jack's 5th birthday, Aaron and I laughing, as we tried to assemble the complicated robot toy I'd bought him. Emma's ballet recital 3 years ago. Aaron's arm around my shoulders as we proudly watched her twirl across the stage. Christmas morning just 7 months earlier, all of us in matching pajamas, opening gifts in front of the tree. Those images captured genuine moments of connection and love. How had we gone from those smiles to cutting ties in such a short time? The disconnect between these happy memories and our current reality felt impossible to reconcile. As the family reunion date approached, my isolation deepened. Friends stopped calling, invitations dried up. I lost 5 pounds in a week, food tasteless and unappealing. Sleep came in brief, fitful bursts, interrupted by nightmares where Aaron was calling for me, but I couldn't reach him. I still had no explanation, no understanding of what I had supposedly done to deserve this excommunication from my own family. The not knowing was almost worse than the rejection itself. Without knowledge of my crime, how could I make amends? How could I fix what I didn't understand was broken? Exactly 10 days after receiving the text from Aaron, I discovered through a Facebook post that the family reunion was proceeding without me. My cousin Judith, unaware of the situation, tagged Robert in a photo captioned, "Road trip to the lake house, can't wait to see everyone this weekend." The reunion I had planned so carefully, had invested so much time and money in, was happening exactly as scheduled. I just wasn't welcome anymore. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the image of my brother, whom I hadn't seen in 3 years, smiling from the driver's seat of his rental car. He was coming all this way, and I wouldn't even get to hug him. Later that day, more photos appeared. Family members arriving at the lake house I had rented. My credit card was still being charged for the property, I realized with a fresh wave of pain. Aaron and Stephanie were hosting the event I had organized, using my reservations, my plans without me. There was Robert, silver-haired now, playing with Jack and Emma on the dock. There was Aunt Martha showing the children how to skip stones across the water. Cousin Beth and her new baby, whom I'd never met, sitting in the porch swing I had specifically requested because I knew Beth loved porch swings. Each image was a knife twist. These moments should have included me. This gathering of our extended family had been my vision, my attempt to heal the distances that had grown between us all during the years of limited travel. Now it had been co-opted with me erased, as if I'd never existed. The next morning I forced myself to go grocery shopping, needing to restock my empty refrigerator. In the cereal aisle I rounded a corner and came face to face with Jack and Emma. They were with Stephanie's mother, Linda, presumably in town for the reunion. The children froze when they saw me, their eyes widening. "Grandma?" Emma whispered, taking a step toward me before Linda's hand clamped firmly on her shoulder. "Children, go pick out some fruit," Linda instructed, her voice tight. "Now please." Jack hesitated, looking between his great-grandmother and me, with confusion evident on his face. "Jack," Linda said more firmly. "Go." They reluctantly moved away, both looking back at me with sad expressions. Once they were out of earshot, Linda turned to me. "I think it's best if you don't approach the children. Aaron and Stephanie have made their wishes clear." "They're my grandchildren," I said, my voice breaking. "I don't even know what I've done wrong." Linda's expression was coldly superior. "Stephanie has told us everything. I'm disappointed in you, Marjorie. I thought you were better than this." She walked away, leaving me wondering yet again what everything could possibly entail. What narrative had been constructed that was so convincing, it turned even the children against me. As I was checking out, I felt a small hand tug on my sweater. Emma had somehow slipped away from Linda and approached me while the older woman was distracted at the deli counter. "Grandma," she whispered quickly, pressing something into my hand. "I made this for you." Before I could respond, she darted away, rejoining her brother and great-grandmother. I waited until I was in my car to examine what she'd given me, a folded piece of paper. Opening it, I found a crayon drawing of what appeared to be an argument. Two stick figures, one tall with what looked like Stephanie's red hair, the other resembling Aaron. Speech bubbles contained scribbled words, but one phrase was written clearly enough to read, "Your mother." The implication was clear. Emma had witnessed arguments about me. Stephanie was speaking negatively about me to Aaron, perhaps frequently enough that Emma felt the need to document it. My 10-year-old granddaughter was trying to communicate something important through the only means available to her. That afternoon, my phone buzzed with messages from relatives attending the reunion. The texts ranged from concerned to accusatory. "Marjorie, why aren't you here? Everyone's asking about you." Cousin Beth: "Whatever is going on with you and Aaron, couldn't you set it aside for family? This is awkward for everyone." Aunt Martha: "Stephanie told us what's been happening. I never thought you'd be the type to interfere in your son's marriage like this." Uncle Paul: "The last message hurt the most, from Robert, my own brother. Sis, I came all this way partly to see you. Aaron says you're having some kind of breakdown and lashing out at them. Do you need help? Should I come by your place after the weekend?" A breakdown, lashing out. The narrative had evolved into concerns about my mental health. I was being portrayed not just as difficult, but as unstable. The systematic character assassination was so thorough, it left me breathless. I spent hours typing and deleting responses, unable to find words that wouldn't sound defensive or desperate. How could I counter accusations when I still didn't fully understand what I was being accused of? That evening, determined to make sense of the situation, I reviewed every interaction I'd had with Stephanie over the past year. Certain patterns began to emerge. Her subtle undermining comments, the way she positioned herself between Aaron and me during family gatherings, her habit of reframing my well-intended suggestions as criticism. I remembered offering to teach Emma my mother's cookie recipe, a family tradition. Stephanie had intervened. We're trying to limit sugar, Marjorie. Not everyone thinks dessert is an appropriate way to show love. The comment had embarrassed me in front of everyone, making my traditional gesture seem outdated and unhealthy. When Jack had struggled with a school project, I'd offered to help. Stephanie had pulled Aaron aside, and he returned to tell me they had their own approach to Jack's education. My offer was rejected, and I was left feeling intrusive. Every instance I could recall followed the same pattern, Stephanie repositioning my maternal care as interference, my experience as outdated, my love as smothering. She had been systematically turning Aaron against me for years, and I had been too trusting to see it. Emma's drawing was the final piece of the puzzle. Stephanie wasn't just passively allowing the distance between Aaron and me, she was actively creating it. The realization brought clarity, but also deep sadness. My son, whom I thought I knew so well, had been manipulated against me. And now, I had to decide what to do with this knowledge. 22 hours after receiving Aaron's devastating text, I made a decision. The phone call I placed wasn't to Aaron or Stephanie, but to Lisa Matthews, Aaron's childhood friend, who still worked with him at the architectural firm. Lisa and Aaron had known each other since high school, and she had always been like part of our family. If anyone would give me honest answers, it would be Lisa. She answered on the third ring, her voice cautious when she realized who was calling. "Marjorie, is everything okay?" "No, Lisa, everything is not okay," I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady. "Aaron sent me a text yesterday saying they're cutting ties with me. I have no idea why. I'm hoping you might have some insight." Her long pause told me she knew something. "I don't want to get involved in family issues," she finally said. "Please, Lisa. I've known you since you were 16. I need to understand what's happening to my family." After another hesitation, she sighed. "I can't talk now. I'm at work. Can we meet at Carson Coffee Shop at 6, the one on Maple Street, not downtown?" The specificity of her location choice suggested she was being careful about where we might be seen together. "I'll be there," I promised. The coffee shop was nearly empty when I arrived. Lisa was already seated in a corner booth, nervously checking her phone. She looked up when I approached, her expression a mix of sympathy and discomfort. "Thank you for meeting me," I said, sliding into the booth. Lisa glanced around before speaking. "I probably shouldn't be doing this, but what's happening isn't right. You deserve to know." "Know what, Lisa? What could possibly justify Aaron cutting his mother out of his life without explanation?" She took a deep breath. "It's Stephanie. She's been working on this for a long time." "Working on what?" "Isolating Aaron. Controlling who he spends time with, who has influence over him." Lisa leaned forward, lowering her voice. "It started with his college friends. One by one they were deemed bad influences or disrespectful to her. Then it was his colleagues, except for those who completely defer to her. I thought about how Aaron's social circle had indeed shrunk over the years, how many of his old friends had mysteriously fallen out of favor. But why me? What threat do I pose to her?" "You're the biggest threat of all," Lisa said simply. "You're the one person whose love for Aaron she can never match or control, the one relationship that predates her and could potentially survive her. She can't stand that." The revelation was both shocking and somehow unsurprising. I had sensed Stephanie's jealousy at times, but had dismissed it as normal mother-in-law, daughter-in-law adjustment. I never imagined it would lead to this. "Do you have any actual evidence of this?" I asked, not wanting to believe the worst without proof. Lisa hesitated, then pulled out her phone. "I wasn't going to show you this, but you need to hear it." She pressed play on a voice recording. Stephanie's voice emerged clearly. "I'm so sick of his mother always being the gold standard. My mom's cooking, my mom's advice, my mom's way of doing things. I'm his wife. I should be the most important woman in his life now. She needs to back off or be pushed out." Then Aaron's voice sounding tired. "She's just trying to help Steph." "Is she? Or is she trying to undermine me? Make me look like a bad mother, a bad wife? I can't take it anymore, Aaron. It's her or me. You need to decide." Lisa stopped the recording. "This was from the office holiday party last year. They were arguing in the hallway. I recorded it because it wasn't the first time I'd heard her talk like this. My hands trembled as I processed what I'd just heard. Does Aaron know you have this? No. And he'd probably never speak to me again if he found out. She looked genuinely concerned. There's more you should know. Stephanie has been intercepting your messages sometimes. Those text messages you sent about Jack's birthday present, Aaron told me he never received them. And the Christmas gift you sent for Emma that supposedly arrived broken, Aaron never saw it. Stephanie told him you forgot to send anything for Emma. The manipulation was more extensive than I'd imagined. What about the grandchildren? Are they being turned against me too? Lisa's expression softened. Actually, that's what finally made me decide to meet with you. Jack asks about you all the time at the office when he visits Aaron. Last week he asked his dad why they don't see Grandma anymore. Stephanie interrupted before Aaron could answer, saying you were too busy. Jack looked so confused and sad. That's when I realized how wrong this all is. And Aaron? Is he fully committed to cutting ties with me? This was the question that terrified me most. Lisa shook her head. I don't think so. He seems conflicted, withdrawn. A few times I've caught him looking at old family photos on his desk. And after he sent you that text. She paused. What about the text? He didn't write it, Lisa said quietly. At least not alone. Stephanie was dictating what he should say. I overheard them in his office. He wanted to soften the language, but she insisted on the cutting ties wording. Said it needed to be definitive. The revelation that Aaron hadn't even written the cruel message himself gave me a strange sense of hope. If he was being manipulated and controlled, then perhaps our relationship could be saved. What should I do, Lisa? The family reunion is happening right now. I've been excluded from an event I planned myself. Lisa considered this. Confront them. Not with accusations or anger, but with evidence and calm. Stephanie has built her control by painting you as emotional and unstable. Prove her wrong. She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. The Aaron I know is still in there somewhere. You just need to help him see what's happening. As our meeting ended, Lisa transferred the audio recording to my phone and promised to send more evidence. Screenshots of contradictory texts, dates of incidents where Stephanie had intercepted communications. She was taking a significant risk to her friendship with Aaron, and possibly her job, but she believed it was the right thing to do. Why are you helping me like this? I asked as we prepared to leave. Because my own mother died when I was young, and you were always there for me, Lisa replied simply. And because Aaron was happier when you were in his life regularly. Everyone could see that, except Stephanie. Armed with this new understanding and concrete evidence, I left the coffee shop with a plan forming in my mind. For the first time in days, I felt something beyond pain and confusion. I felt purpose. The truth needed to come to light, not just for my sake, but for Aaron and the children. Whatever happened next, I wouldn't be operating in the dark anymore. After my meeting with Lisa, I spent the next day gathering evidence and preparing my approach. This wasn't just about defending myself anymore. It was about helping my son see the manipulation that had ensnared our family. Lisa sent me additional recordings, text message screenshots, and a timeline of incidents where Stephanie had actively sabotaged my relationship with Aaron and the grandchildren. The family reunion was scheduled to continue through the weekend at the lake house. I knew that confronting them there would be difficult, but waiting any longer felt impossible. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about Jack and Emma, who deserved a relationship with their grandmother. I dressed carefully that Saturday morning, choosing a simple blue dress that Aaron had once complimented, nothing that could be criticized as inappropriate or attention-seeking. I applied minimal makeup, pulled my hair back neatly, and wore the small pearl earrings that had been a gift from Aaron on my 60th birthday. My appearance needed to contradict any narrative about me being unstable or erratic. The drive to the lake house took 45 minutes each mile, increasing my anxiety, but also strengthening my resolve. As I pulled into the gravel driveway, I could see several cars parked outside. Robert's rental, Aaron's SUV, Stephanie's sedan, and vehicles belonging to various cousins and aunts. The sounds of laughter and splashing came from the lakeside where the family was apparently enjoying a beautiful summer day. For a moment I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, gathering courage. My presence would create a disruption, but sometimes disruption was necessary for healing to begin. I checked my purse to make sure I had my phone with the evidence Lisa had provided, took a deep breath, and stepped out of the car. The first person to notice me was my niece Kathy, who was setting up a volleyball net with her husband. Her eyes widened, and she nudged her husband, who turned to stare. Their reaction caught the attention of others, and a ripple of awareness spread across the gathering. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Children paused in their play, sensing the sudden tension in the air. Robert emerged from the lake house, freezing when he saw me standing there. "Marjorie," he called, confusion evident in his voice. "What are you—" "Aaron said you weren't coming." Before I could respond, Stephanie appeared on the porch, her expression shifting from surprise to barely concealed anger. She quickly composed her features into a mask of concern, descending the steps with calculated grace. "Marjorie," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "this isn't a good time. We discussed this. Aaron was very clear about needing space." Several family members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Clearly they had been told a story about why I wasn't present, but now seemed uncertain about how to react to my actual appearance. "I need to speak with my son," I said, keeping my voice steady and calm. "Aaron, are you here?" As if summoned. Aaron appeared from around the side of the house, a beach towel in his hands. He stopped short when he saw me, his face paling. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Stephanie moved swiftly to his side, placing her hand on his arm, in what appeared supportive, but was clearly possessive. "Your mother was just leaving," she said firmly. "She knows this is inappropriate." I maintained eye contact with Aaron, ignoring her attempt to speak for him. "I need 10 minutes of your time, Aaron. Just 10 minutes. After everything we've been to each other, I think I deserve at least that." The gathered family members stood frozen, watching this uncomfortable drama unfold. I caught sight of Jack and Emma peering from behind the porch railing, their expressions a mix of confusion and hope. Aaron looked torn, glancing between his wife and me. "Steph, maybe I should just—" "Absolutely not," Stephanie hissed, though still trying to maintain her composed facade. "We agreed on this. She's manipulating you just like always." 10 minutes, Aaron," I repeated. "In private. Then I'll leave if that's still what you want." Robert stepped forward, his big brother instincts apparently kicking in. "For God's sake, Aaron, talk to your mother. This whole situation is bizarre." Aaron hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Okay, 10 minutes." He turned to Stephanie, whose face had flushed with anger. "Just 10 minutes, Steph, to give closure." "Fine," she snapped. "Use the study, but I'm waiting right outside the door." Aaron led me into the lake house and to the small study off the main living room. The tension in his shoulders and the way he avoided my eyes spoke volumes about his discomfort. Once the door closed behind us, he crossed his arms defensively. "You shouldn't have come here, Mom. I was clear in my message." "Was it your message, Aaron?" I asked quietly. "Or was it Stephanie's words that you sent?" His expression flickered with surprise. "What are you talking about?" "I know Stephanie was with you when you sent that text. I know she dictated the cutting ties language. What I don't know is why my son, who has always been honest and direct with me, would end our relationship via text without explanation." "That's not—" "You don't understand," he stammered, but the certainty in his denial was already wavering. "Then help me understand," I urged. "Because from where I stand, it looks like Stephanie has been systematically isolating you from anyone who cares about you independently of her. First your college friends, then your colleagues, and now your mother." His face registered shock. "How do you know about my college friends?" "Lisa told me." Anger flashed in his eyes. "Lisa should mind her own business." "She cares about you," I said simply. "As do I. Enough to fight for you even when you push me away." Aaron began pacing the small room. "You don't understand the pressure I've been under. Stephanie says you're constantly criticizing her, undermining her parenting decisions, making her feel inadequate. When have I ever criticized Stephanie's parenting? I asked. Give me one concrete example, Aaron. He opened his mouth, then closed it, brow furrowed in concentration. You said Jack needed reading help. I observed that he was struggling with his book report and offered to help. Is that criticism? You brought vegetarian meals, even though Stephanie told you the kids needed protein. I brought vegetarian lasagna with plenty of protein from cheese and beans because Stephanie told me she was trying to incorporate more plant-based meals. I was supporting her stated goal, not contradicting it. With each example he offered, I calmly provided context that reframed the interaction. Slowly, doubt began to creep into his expression. There's something you need to hear, I said, pulling out my phone. This might be difficult, but please listen completely before responding. I played Lisa's recording of Stephanie's ultimatum. It's her or me. You need to decide. Aaron's face went through a series of emotions: disbelief, anger, confusion, and finally, a dawning recognition. Where did you get this? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. Lisa recorded it at last year's holiday party. She's been concerned about you for some time. I showed him the date stamp to prove its authenticity. There's more, Aaron. The birthday texts you never received. The Christmas gift for Emma that supposedly arrived broken. The grandmother's day card that allegedly got lost in the mail. None of these things happened the way Stephanie told you they did. I showed him screenshots Lisa had provided, texts between Aaron and Stephanie revealing contradictory stories, emails I had sent that he claimed never to have received. With each piece of evidence, his defensive posture softened slightly. Why would she do this? He asked, sounding genuinely confused. What does she gain by keeping you away from us? Control, I said gently. I represent a connection to your past, a source of love and support that exists independently of her. For someone who needs complete control, that's threatening. A knock on the door interrupted us. Time's up, came Stephanie's sharp voice. Aaron looked at me, conflict evident in his eyes. He wasn't fully convinced yet, but seeds of doubt had been planted. Before he could respond to Stephanie, another sound caught our attention. A commotion outside the study. Grandma's here. I want to see Grandma. Jack's voice carried clearly through the door, followed by Stephanie's harsh whisper for him to be quiet. Aaron opened the door to find Jack standing there defiantly, Emma half hidden behind him. Stephanie was trying to usher them away without creating a scene. Dad? Jack said, his young face serious. Why can't we see Grandma anymore? Is it because of the fighting? What fighting? Aaron asked, kneeling to his son's level. When you and Mom fight about Grandma. Mom says mean things about her all the time, but Grandma's nice. She helps me with my reading and doesn't get mad when I don't understand right away. Emma nodded in agreement, holding up a drawing, similar to the one she had secretly given me at the grocery store. This one showed stick figures labeled Mommy, Daddy, and Grandma, with speech bubbles containing angry scribbles around the Mommy figure. Aaron took the drawing, studying it with growing concern. He looked up at Stephanie, whose face had drained of color. The children are confused, she said quickly. They don't understand adult relationships. I'm starting to think I'm the one who's been confused, Aaron replied, his voice taking on a new firmness. He stood, placing a protective hand on Jack's shoulder. How long have you been talking about my mother negatively in front of our children? Stephanie's composure finally cracked. This is exactly what I warned you about. She comes here uninvited and immediately turns everyone against me. Can't you see what she's doing? Her voice had risen to a shout, drawing the attention of family members who had begun to gather in the living room, watching the confrontation unfold. I think what I'm seeing, Aaron said quietly, is the truth coming to light. In that moment, watching my son stand up to the manipulation that had ensnared him, I felt a complex mix of emotions, vindication certainly, but also sadness that it had come to this, and concern for what lay ahead for their family. The path forward wouldn't be simple, but at least now we were dealing with reality, instead of carefully constructed illusions. After the confrontation at the lake house, I left to give Aaron space to process everything. The family reunion continued without me, but something fundamental had shifted. I drove home with a mixture of emotions: relief that the truth had emerged, sadness for the pain ahead for all of us, and cautious hope that healing might now be possible. What I didn't expect was the flood of missed calls that began that evening. First, my phone showed 5 missed calls from Aaron while I was taking a long bath trying to decompress from the emotional day. By midnight, that number had climbed to 23. By the following morning, 99 missed calls lit up my screen. 96 from Aaron, 3 from Robert. I had silenced my phone, needing time to recover emotionally before engaging again. When I finally called Aaron back, his voice was thick with emotion. "Mom, I've been trying to reach you all night," he said, the worry evident in his tone. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I assured him. "I just needed some quiet time to process everything." I was afraid you might." He couldn't finish the sentence, but I understood. He had feared that the hurt I'd experienced might have driven me to do something drastic. The thought that he had spent the night worrying about me added yet another layer of pain to this complicated situation. "I'm stronger than that," I told him gently. "I raised you on my own for years, remember? It takes more than this to break me. Can we talk in person? There's so much I need to say." We arranged to meet at a neutral location, the park where I had once pushed him on the swings as a child. When I arrived, Aaron was already there, sitting on a bench looking exhausted. His eyes were rimmed with red, suggesting he hadn't slept. He stood when he saw me, hesitating briefly before embracing me tightly. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he whispered against my hair. "I don't know how I let things get so twisted." We sat together on the bench, and Aaron poured out everything: how Stephanie had gradually isolated him, reframing his memories of our relationship, positioning herself as the victim of an intrusive mother-in-law; how his desire to be a supportive husband had been weaponized against his relationship with me; how the cutting ties text had been sent during a particularly intense argument where Stephanie had presented an ultimatum about the family reunion. "After you left yesterday, everything exploded," he explained. "Stephanie couldn't maintain the facade anymore. She started saying terrible things about you in front of everyone, including the kids." Robert and Aunt Martha were shocked. Even Stephanie's own mother looked uncomfortable with how she was behaving. "What happens now?" I asked, the question that had been weighing on me since yesterday. Aaron ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar from his childhood when he was troubled. "I don't know exactly. Stephanie and I need professional help that's clear. This isn't just about you. It's a pattern that affects every relationship in our lives. She's agreed to counseling, though I think more to save face with the family than from genuine recognition of the problem." "And the children?" His expression softened. "They miss you terribly. That became very clear yesterday. Jack kept asking when we could go to Grandma's house again. Emma pulled out all the art projects you've worked on together." The thought of my grandchildren wanting to reconnect brought tears to my eyes. "I've missed them too, more than I can express." "I know this is asking a lot," Aaron said carefully. "But can you give us some time, not to cut you out?" he added quickly, seeing my expression. "But to establish some new patterns, to figure out what healthy boundaries look like for all of us." I nodded, understanding the complexity of the situation. "I can do that. But I won't disappear from your lives again, Aaron. That wasn't good for any of us." "No, it wasn't," he agreed. "And I won't let that happen again, I promise." Over the following weeks, a new rhythm developed. Aaron and Stephanie began intensive marriage counseling. I maintained a respectful distance, but Aaron called regularly with updates. 6 weeks after the confrontation, he suggested a supervised visit with the children. Supervised not to protect them from me, but to ease everyone into new interaction patterns. That first visit was awkward, but joyful. Stephanie remained distant, speaking to me only when necessary, but she didn't interfere with my time with the children. Jack proudly showed me his improved reading skills, and Emma had made a stack of drawings for me. Aaron watched the interactions with a sad smile, perhaps recognizing how much had been lost in the months of separation. Gradually, these visits became more frequent and less supervised. Aaron began dropping the children off at my house occasionally, allowing me to rebuild our relationship without the tension Stephanie's presence created. It wasn't ideal, but it was progress. 3 months after the lake house confrontation, Aaron called with news. Stephanie's therapist has helped her recognize some patterns from her own childhood, he explained. Her mother was extremely controlling, and she's been unconsciously repeating those behaviors. It's not an excuse for what happened, but it helps explain it. Understanding is the first step to healing, I said, drawing on my nursing experience. For all of us. There's something else, Aaron continued. She's agreed to a family dinner this Sunday. At your house like we used to do, if you're comfortable with that. The prospect of hosting Stephanie after everything that had happened was daunting, but I recognized the olive branch being extended. I'd like that very much, I told him. That Sunday dinner was tense but civil. Stephanie brought a dessert she had baked herself, an unprecedented gesture. Conversation remained largely focused on the children and neutral topics, but it was a beginning. As they were leaving, Stephanie paused at the door. The lasagna was good, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. It wasn't an apology, but from someone who had never acknowledged my cooking before it felt significant. 6 months after receiving the cutting ties text, I hosted a gathering at my home. Not just Aaron's immediate family, but Robert and his wife Aunt Martha, and a few close friends including Lisa, who had been instrumental in bringing the truth to light. The event wasn't labeled a reunion. That word carried too many difficult associations now. But it served a similar purpose, bringing together people who cared about each other. As I watched Aaron helping Jack and Emma plant a small tree in my backyard, something that will grow as we grow together, he had explained to the children. I reflected on the painful journey we had all traveled. The manipulation had nearly destroyed our family. The hurt was still there, the trust still fragile, and being rebuilt day by day. Stephanie was trying in her own way, though our relationship would likely never be warm. Aaron was more mindful now, more aware of the dynamics that had nearly cost him his mother. And I had learned valuable lessons about recognizing signs of isolation and control, about standing firm in my truth, even when it would be easier to retreat. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting or pretending the pain never happened. It meant choosing to move forward, to build something new from the broken pieces of what had been damaged. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same. A lesson I had learned at 64, proving that wisdom can come at any age if we're open to its difficult teachings. As the tree's roots took hold in my garden, I silently wished for it to grow straight and strong, untwisted by outside forces, reaching always toward the light. Just as I hoped our family would continue to do in the years ahead. If my story has resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself when someone tried to push you out of a loved one's life? How did you handle it? Remember to like and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about family challenges and reconciliation. Thank you for listening, and may you always find the strength to seek truth and healing in your own relationships.